Thanks for joining us for our streaming service for your First Alert Avalanche Report. I'm your First Alert meteorologist, Callie Zanandri, and joining me is the Deputy Director of the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, Brian Lazar. Brian, we've had some recent snow. How is that impacting this weekend's conditions?
Yeah, well, as you might expect, the snow did lead to an uptick in avalanche danger. So you can see that we ended up with kind of widespread areas of considerable avalanche danger. This short-lived area of high danger over on the Grand Mesa was done by Wednesday afternoon. But as we move into the Thursday afternoon and into Friday, we are still going to have widespread areas of considerable avalanche danger because of all this snow that we just got. And you can see here that this is a modeled run, but it does pretty accurately represent the kind of snowfall that we got from Tuesday through Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. We had a widespread region of 4 to 8 inches across most mountain areas. Some of those westernmost areas, particularly the northwest side of the San Juan Mountains, the Grand Mesa, the western portion of the Elks and portions of the Flat Tops got well over a foot of snow, in some cases, pushing 18 inches, and that did lead to an uptick in avalanche danger.
Now, it's not just the snow. We've also had some really gusty winds. How does this play into the increased avalanche danger?
Yeah, the winds were something else. It was shaking people's houses, blowing shingles off the roof, and of course it was blowing all that new snow around. So this is just one example. This is the weather station that we maintain up on Berthoud Pass that sits at about 11,800 feet. But it's really indicative of the wind that was happening across most mountain areas. And so you can see as the storm rolled in here, these arrows are pointing to the northwest, which means we had, or northeast, which means we had southwesterly winds. As the cold front arrived and the snowfall really picked up, you can see the wind switched to the northwest, which means we were blowing all that new snow from first the southwest and then the northwest. And look at these wind speeds, consistently in the 20-30 mile an hour range, with gusts reaching at least, into the 80s in some places. And so that created this whole new generation of wind drifted slabs or wind slab avalanches. Here's a good example of some skiers traveling along a ridge, triggering a wind-drifted slab right on the leeward side of the ridgeline, and you can see that the wind was blowing from right to left in this photo. These avalanches only got bigger as the drifting continued. And so you can see here early in the storm, we're looking at avalanches, breaking around 1 to maybe 2 feet deep. By the time we move into Thursday and Friday, these avalanches are going to be 2, maybe even 3 feet deep in the deepest snowpack areas because of all that wind-drifted snow. And again, it's the same kind of terrain features. Here's an avalanche taken from the Broom Hut deck right up near Berthoud Pass, and in the upper right-hand side of this image, you can see just below the ridgeline that we had an avalanche break on a wind-drifted rocky slope. These types of terrain features remain the most dangerous after this wind loading event. And here's another avalanche, again, a steep convex roll, rocky area, but a thick wind-loaded slope, triggered by a snowmobile going across the bottom of the slope, but fortunately was not caught.
Now, how does the snow and wind affect the weaker layers in the snowpack that we've been talking about?
Yeah, so we have been talking about these weak layers buried deeper in the snowpack for quite some time. Here's a really good illustration of a snowpack near the Sunlight Ski Resort near Glenwood Springs. But again, we show this image because it's really clear. You can see these other buried weak layers, these gray stripes in the snowpack in the middle and lower portion of the snowpack. And what we're worried about is all this new and wind drifting snow waking up those deeper weak layers where we can get avalanches to break not just in the drifted storm snow like what we just showed, but they could break deeper in these more deeply buried weak layers. And here's an example of a snowpack test which is testing these deeper weak layers. And you can see that in some areas, the weak layers near the ground still remain sensitive. We did see evidence that in some places we can get these avalanches to break deeper from just the last several days. Here's a good avalanche from near Wolf Creek Pass, breaking down near the ground on a steep rocky rollover. Here's another one triggered by a snowmobiler near Grand Mesa, and I want you to really notice just how deep this wind-drifted slope broke, all the way down towards the ground, washing any potential victim, through trees, rocks, and into a gully. But fortunately, no one was caught in this avalanche. And then, of course, if we get these avalanches to break down near those weak layers closer to the ground on big open terrain features, like this one near Crested Butte, you can see we've got avalanches breaking near the ground and breaking quite wide in these alpine features. These are the kinds of avalanches which are just quite simply hard to survive. So we are worried about this new loading, waking up weak layers deeper in the snowpack. The most dangerous areas continue to face north northeast, and east. This is where the bullseye of most avalanche activity is taking place. But because we saw winds originally coming out of the southwest, then moving to the northwest, we've had to expand the areas of concern to include northwest-facing slopes and southeast-facing slopes for the new wind-drifted slabs. So I want to highlight one last thing so that people can plan accordingly. But if we can avoid slopes like this, which show obvious signs of being windswept in some areas and wind drifted with big fat pillows in other areas, we can avoid these big fat wind drifted pillows. We can greatly reduce our chance of triggering both avalanches in the newly drifted snow and then subsequently triggering avalanches that might break deeper and be more destructive.
Always important to check the forecast before you go. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian, and we will see you here next week for your First Alert Avalanche Report.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there.